Hi again, everybody. Finally getting this out because I've been delaying it for days. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. It's not going to be right. You know, my perfectionism has been getting the best of me, as well as time crunches. But this video is kind of important on the narcissism front. It is dangerous to give the narcissist a spotlight. It gives them what they want. It gives them supply and potentially sympathy. A spotlight lets a narcissist spin their lies, tell their tale the way they want it told, and drag people down. Because the more attention they get, the more they can spew their lies. And repetitiveness can drill things into people. You don't believe me? Ask anybody who's been through either the military, police academy, or fire academy. We know. So it is dangerous to do such a thing. And I have the bar none perfect example of such an individual, and that would be this channel's recurring friend, the most infamous police impersonator of all time, registered sex offender, stolen valor, and repeat traffic offender, and adulterer. The legend in his own mind himself, the fake Florida police officer, the fake Army Ranger, the fake Green Beret who jumped in the Fallujah. Nobody jumped in the Fallujah. I checked with Army Ranger friends of mine, but that would be the infamous Jeremy DeWitt. And in part, the idea that narcissists like him get spotlights while victims of narcissistic abuse and other types of abuse. No one wants to hear what we went through. Suck it up and pretend like it didn't happen. That pisses me off. And it should you too. You know, and Jeremy DeWitt, again, it's just my opinion that he's a narcissist, but someone who, you know, has actual psychological training beyond 2 college classes. Dr. Grande has done a video where he gets into depth about Jeremy DeWitt's narcissism. Jeremy loves the sound of his own voice. And like George Costanza, he is a believer in the, it's not a lie if you believe it to be true. So I think, in part, he believes his own lies, that he was what he says he was, or that he's a victim. And in giving Jeremy this spotlight, like a true narcissist, he tries to rewrite history, which is a common tactic among them. You know, Jeremy is a great example. That's why I'm using him in this video, because there's many videos about him. And as I'm saying this video, when I say he doesn't deserve a spotlight and shouldn't be given it, I'm talking about, you know, him going on like national television like Dr. Phil, or reporters giving him news segments in Orlando, Florida. That's dangerous because he can spin his own tale. What is useful, and it's why I'm using him as this example, is Mr., you know, policeman, you know, the king of funeral escorts. Him and his staff wore body cameras while they did their funerals. So that's been reported on channels like PoliceTube and Fraudy International, and Real World Police have posted those. So you can hear Jeremy, his own narcissism, his own lies, his own contradictions, unedited. You know, because it's the video that he recorded, that he chose to record. Videos like that are important. That stuff's fine to be posted because it's, you can see and hear what transpired in real time as it's happening, which, but in true narcissistic fashion, even a video depicting the events, they'll no, that's not how it happened. It's like, bro, this is your camera, your footage, unedited. What do you mean it didn't happen like this? Because I said so, and that's narcissism right there. But you know, they try to rewrite history all the time. Jeremy DeWitt is a classic example of this. And when they're given a spotlight, you know, and a chance to spin their tale, they'll try to spin it in their favor. Like Jeremy DeWitt will claim that when he committed statutory rape, that it was one time and it was in a bar and she said she was 18. Well, she was 15. and it was like he was friends with like, you know, other people in her family, and he'd been around her for a while, and it happened way more than once. The tale he likes to spin is that he came home from the army, of which he was never in. He was never in the military, and got drunk because his brother got killed in the service. And he does have a half brother who's younger than him. I mean, he's still alive as of, you know, a couple months ago when we last heard about him, but he was never in the service either. So that's all a fabricated tale. You know, he likes to say, like, I served as a cop, and then I wanted action, so I joined the military. And first I was at Benning, and then I was at Bragg. First I was with the Rangers, and then I went SF, and I messed up my back because a riser popped when I was jumping out in the Fallujah. I can't even get certified as a firefighter. No, you can't get certified as a firefighter or a cop. Well, one, because you impersonated a police officer. Police done. And, you know, you're a sex offender, so no fire department will have you. But because he gets so much attention and spin and special treatment, he is, despite all his numerous crimes, a good old boy. So he tends to get lighter sentences and let off easy, despite the fact that he has been repeatedly in trouble with the law since the age of 18 in 1998, when he impersonated a police officer, when he was a member of, you know, a police explorers unit, which is like 16, 17, 18-year-olds, because you have to be in most states 19 to enter police academy. But those programs are for, you know, young people who want to pursue law enforcement careers, and that gives them the opportunity to be around it and do some basic tasks and learn some things. The fire department has a similar thing. They called us junior firefighters. I got involved at 16, which was the minimum age, and, you know, learned how to roll hose and do the stuff around the fire station. You got to ride along on calls and refill oxygen bottles and do support stuff. If you did get a big fire, you could hold a hose outside. You couldn't go in. And then, yeah, because you have to be 18, even as a volunteer, to attend a fire academy, be able to go in. But you only have to be 17 to go to EMT school. So when I was 17, I went to EMT school. But regardless, he gets this spotlight to spin these tales, and it's dangerous, as I've mentioned many times. I'm probably going to say it 10 more times. And I want you to take it from this perspective. How many of you out there have been wronged, like truly wronged in an illegal way, like say at work, or, you know, something that is truly a crime that maybe you tried to report and it was swept under the rug? You know, maybe you were bullied and hazed at your job, for example, and reported it through the proper chain of command, and then faced retaliation that was swept under the rug, and had a hell of a time going to the media because the institution that you may have been reporting is, you know, known to be one of the best at keeping their shit in-house. Something like that. So maybe people in that situation have a hard time getting a chance to tell their story, not only for themselves and to get their truth out there, but to break this cycle and expose that culture to prevent future victims. No, we'll vilify you. How dare you say the truth because we want to believe the fantasy. But if you're a repeat offender like Jeremy DeWitt, it's not my fault. They're picking on me. I didn't do anything wrong. And mind you, you know, to his credit, he started Metro State in 2010, his own business, you know, quite successfully. And Jeremy DeWitt's no idiot. But had he simply followed the law in Florida and was just less aggressive at his job, because obviously he started that company to be as police-like as he could, because he can't even get a security license given his priors. But had he just done what law enforcement told him, he'd be out there, you know, he can't act like a cop, but he can look like one and ride his motorcycle with his purple lights and be making like six-figure money. But that wasn't good enough. Why? Because the appearance isn't enough for a narcissist. It's not just about those who like impersonate cops or do stolen valor in the military. It's not just about looking the part and seeing people look at you with authority and, you know, that gets you off. No. They have to have the authority. They have to use it. They have to act it. They get off on that feeling of authority and superiority. Get out of my funeral! Get out of my funeral now! Pull over! He's never pulled anybody over, according to himself, but there's his video yelling at people to pull over. You know, I'm a state agent! That's his other big lie. Again, they like to, rewrite history. Funeral escorts in Florida, you register a company as an LLC. There is no, state certification to be a funeral escort. In the same way that, say, you have to get a state certification as an emergency medical technician to be on an ambulance as an EMT. No, there isn't. But he likes to say that he's a state-certified agency. And that game is to try to get people to think that he's some kind of private-approved, police-like organization. In the same way, to use EMS as an example, just like how I think most people out there are familiar that you have, your emergency ambulances that are part of the fire department. And then you see private transport companies that do things like transport patients from nursing homes to hospitals for treatment and things like that. So he tries to play it that he's this subcontractor of the police, oh, we do escorts because the sheriff's department doesn't want to do them anymore, kind of thing. And there is some truth that the sheriff's department in most places don't want to do funeral escorts. And there is a need for the service he provides, especially in cities like Orlando. But it does not give him police-like authority, which is what he seeks. He wants to be as police-like as possible, to make people think he has some authority he doesn't have, because that gives him narcissistic supply. And at the end of the day, that's all the narcissist cares about. And he uses a ton of police jargon. Now, I'm not that up on police jargon. I recognize some of it that he used because having been an EMT in my youth, obviously, on accident scenes and stuff, EMS and police interact quite a bit, and I have friends that are cops, so I'm familiar with some of it. But, wow, for a guy who was never a cop, but beyond an explorer, and that was in 1998, he sure reads up on a lot of police jargon, because you can see he looks forward. Again, with the spotlight thing, he will push aside his employees to interact with police himself. And I think, and it appears, that he gets off on that as well, because when passersby see it, he wants to make it look like it's two officers from different departments, talking and stuff. And you can see this. He thinks himself as a fellow cop. You can watch on YouTube his interrogation or interview, whatever you want to call it, with Corporal John Ramsey when he was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon, because he carries a less lethal pepper ball, which is legal even for someone like him. But let's get into that, how he, little sidebar, wouldn't be a video of mine without one. I say how he wants to look as police-like as possible. Now, DeWitt will say that's not true. He's just trying to look professional. And yes, he has every right to carry a non-lethal pepper ball weapon for self-defense. Fine. But thing with pepper balls, a lot of them, they'll have the knob for the CO2, you would punch it and turn it, and that would activate the CO2 cylinder to make the weapon able to fire. And a lot of them have either blue or yellow on them to signify that they're a less lethal weapon, same as tasers do. He not only chose one that is all black and an exact replica of a Glock, which is currently the most carried sidearm by police officers, because they're not cool enough to carry revolvers anymore. Revolvers. But if I was a cop and they'd let me carry a .357, I would. An 8-shot one, but still. I like revolvers. Jeremy has a aftermarket magazine that doesn't even have the knob. So if you do look at his pepper ball weapon, it looks exactly like a Glock semi-automatic pistol, a common sidearm of modern-day police. Glock. If you're going to carry a semi, at least carry a SIG. But anyway, I'm not a fan of Glocks. Never have been. They don't feel right. But I'll stick with revolvers. They're plenty of capacity for my uses in self-defense and more reliable. But, you know, he goes out of his way. His badge is exactly what LAPD wears. And I understand, you know, badging's common amongst funeral escort, security, all that. But you could pick a design that doesn't look law enforcement-like. Needless to say, because of his antics and because he has a very, very skilled attorney, Amir Ladan, when one of the few true things that Jeremy DeWitt has said is when he said Amir Ladan is one of the best attorneys in Orlando. I believe it. That the man's got some skills. And clearly, I think Jeremy's paid for his summer home. But by giving a man like this a spotlight, it perpetuates narcissism and it puts victims down, because this man, you know, again, innocent until proven guilty, fair enough, but this man has had multiple convictions for various crimes since the age of 18. There's a lot. I saw videos a while back. There's stuff he did like after his police impersonation in '98 and before Metro State started in 2010, aside from why he's a sex offender. There's other there's things in there. Look, PoliceTube, go check out PoliceTube's Far Removed Uncle channel. He talks about all of it. He's far better. You know, he's probably the best at covering the Jeremy DeWitt story. I only speak about him from time to time as a case study in narcissism, because it is a great case study in narcissism, and because, you know, you can go on other channels and hear Jeremy in his own words and see him in action and know what I'm talking about and not just have to take my intuition for it. But these are the people that our media gives spotlights to. These are the people that get to go on national television, like Dr. Phil, like, oh, this man's a police impersonator and a registered sex offender and he's in trouble again. Let's let him on national TV. It's like, what about, you know, the female that faced sexual assault in her workplace and it was covered up because it was the boss's son? What about the firefighter who faced bullying and hazing in his department and then retaliation for speaking up on it from an abuser who's done this before, but it's been covered up because he's a good old boy? No, you know, if you're a scumbag, I can't say it on YouTube. You fill in the blank what I'm going to leave, because I've always said this for 20 years now. The way our society works, the more you blank up, the more people bend over backwards to help you. And if you're a victim, if somebody truly wrongs you and you've done everything right and you've played by the rules and done it by the book and get screwed over, they're just like, especially boomers, like, just is what it is and that's how it's supposed to be and just let it go. How many of you out there, you know, when you were finally comfortable enough or just had enough and you started talking about what you went through, were basically told to let it go and that it didn't matter, or that you were wrong for speaking up about the wrong that was done to you? Yet we live in a culture where somebody like Jeremy DeWitt is given a spotlight. And the man lives in delusion too. My favorite Jeremy DeWitt moment is, and the video's up there on YouTube, when he's arrested in Chicago. Ooh, I didn't even mention Chicago. This man was also arrested for throwing chairs at a tow truck driver on the 6th floor of a building. And he threw more than one. It was 4 or 6. I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched the video. But yeah, like, this is the kind of shit this guy does, like, semi-regularly. And yet there's still people out there like, oh, the cops picking on Jeremy. Picking on him? Like, picking on him. Look at all that he does. Like, in multiple cities. Like, this isn't like, you know, he claims like, it's just Vidler who was after me, this sergeant in Orange County, Florida, who he got fired. But it's like, wait a minute, Jeremy, if it's just Vidler, then why are all these departments, wow, they all talk and it's Florida? Well, then explain Chicago. I highly doubt any of those cops in Chicago know any of the ones in Florida. But my favorite moment, when they're arresting him, he screams at his wife. Her name is Rania, who I do have empathy for. He screams, my badge! Where's my badge, Rania? Like his made-up Metro State funeral escort badge that, you know, he paid a company to have made for a professional appearance, whatever, that's his prerogative. But acting as if it's like an issued, you know, a government issue badge as authority. And he made those cops in Chicago believe that he was a police officer, and they were going to cut him a break because he was an officer, which I don't agree with. If anything, think about that, just another sidebar for a minute. If a cop commits a crime, they should not be given a break because, well, one, they should be held to a higher standard because of their job, as should firefighters too. But a cop more than anybody knows what an arrestable offense is, you know? But anyway, yeah, he had them fooled briefly. They did end up arresting him. But this is the type of man that constantly gets a spotlight, that constantly gets the chance to spin his story, to tell his lies, to get his narcissistic supply. In this case, he has many ways of doing that, but in this case, by tricking people into feeling sorry for him. Because he'll talk about, like, he wanted to be a cop and all these troubles. It's like, but you did things to deserve all your troubles. Like, nobody was out to get you from day one. You know what I mean? Had he not impersonated a police officer at 18, he probably could have became a police officer in Florida. I mean, he was in the Explorer program. That helps. He certainly seems physically fit enough. I don't know his intelligence level, but I assume, he was successful in business. I could see him at least being smart enough to complete a 2-year criminal justice program at a local university and then making it through an academy. It's like, all you had to do was not pretend to be someone you're not. Nobody took it from him. And I know what it's like to have a badge you earned taken away for doing, nothing wrong, but apparently telling the truth, because the truth is bad depending on, who you telling the truth on, because certain people, they like royalty, like that how it is here, just like across the pond, how Andrew Windsor can do whatever he wants. He just may have to write the check every now and again. Yeah, Andrew Windsor, my other friend. But yeah, so think about that. I want you to think about what you've been through, everybody who watches this video. Think about what you've been through, what you've tried to say, who was willing to listen, and then check out the story of Jeremy DeWitt and question. We give narcissists spotlights to spin their lies, but victims don't get a chance to out their abuser, to have their truth, to stop the cycle of abuse, unless they're famous. And even then, it may be difficult, depending on who the abuser is. If the abuser is also famous, and you kind of, but yeah, it can be a little, that's a story in itself, which I can't speak about. I know someone who can, but yeah. Don't worry. If you were wronged and abused, there is one person, well, not necessarily a person, who will listen, but an entity, a very vengeful entity that I have the utmost respect for. And that, of course, is the goddess Lilith. Lilith will listen. Lilith will take vengeance. So I hope this was informative. Check out PoliceTube. Check out Fraudy International. Check out Real World Police. The Jeremy DeWitt story is fascinating, and I applaud these YouTubers who put up his raw videos so people can see the truth compared to the spin that the news media and Dr. Phil gives this liar. What they're doing is important, and they analyze it too. That's totally different. I'm not talking about Jeremy getting attention on YouTube via video footage from the arrest, from his actions. You can see him going 100 miles an hour, weaving across the double yellow line. Like, this guy, it's on video, everything he claims he didn't do. And yet some people are like, I feel so bad for him. Yeah, you feel bad for him? Did you see the way he was looking at your 15-year-old daughter? You still feel bad for him now? Do you? So, yeah, check out those videos. If for those of you that are new to understanding what narcissism is and can't spot narcissistic tactics, great case study, a lot of information available, and he runs the gambit of it. So I hope this was informative and helpful. Please remember to support the channel through the links in the About section. Follow me on Instagram, and like and subscribe, and I'll start getting videos up regularly again like I've been saying. But now I'm actually going to do it because tied up some loose ends. Oh, yeah, and I apologize. I'll share a little something with you. You know, I have a new thing I have to do Thursday nights because I don't read contracts fully. So, yes, my agent apparently, if she wants me to take a class, I have to do it. And I don't have to pay for it. You can't be like, you need to take this and it costs money. It's like, no, you need to show up and do this and participate and take it seriously. It's like continuing education in the fire department. It's like, oh, you need to go to technical rescue training. Obviously, it doesn't cost anything, but it's like you're going and you're going to pass. Well, Thursday nights for 3 hours a night now, I have to go to an acting class because my agent wants me to. Why she wants some nobody model who just got back in the business, who can barely pose for pictures, to go to an acting class, I'll never know, but I have to go. So, yeah. There's that. And it's just a little advice. Read contracts all the time. You would think I would have read this one, you know, now. Obviously, when it was, you know, signing my contract with the fire department, it's like, what? Not good enough. Blood is not necessary. Yeah. All right. So there's a little update for you, too. Like and subscribe.